No. Hello, fellow wanderers. I am your Arbiter, and welcome to the Wanderer's Expanse. Today, we're taking a trip to one of the most extreme environments on this planet that is still home to life, even if it's not the giant shark kind.
Suck it, Megalodon!
I'm of course talking about the deep sea, and more specifically, Challenger Deep, at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. But since the 4-hour journey to get down there is half the fun, let's start at the top. The ocean is divided up into layers depending on how deep you go. These layers are usually separated by the relative amount of sunlight that is able to reach there. The epipelagic zone, also known as the sunlight zone, is where you're going to get the majority of your action. Since there's less water to pierce through, a lot of sunlight can reach this region. As such, photosynthetic life such as marine plants, bacteria, and algae thrive here, allowing for similar food chain as terrestrial life. You see, the deeper you go down in the ocean, the more life becomes about how not only to survive the immense pressure of the water above you, but also about how to obtain and conserve energy. As we go a little deeper, you'll see what I mean. You enter this world by diving 200 meters below the surface. Below it is another world, a world of sound, a world of sight, a world of terror. You're sinking into a land of both shadow and substance, of depth and mystery. You've just crossed over into the mesopelagic zone, also known as the Twilight Zone. Here in the mesopelagic zone, life is still pretty active, but it's a bit less crowded. Okay, a lot less crowded. There's still some pretty interesting stuff going on. Here we see some new and interesting life forms start to take hold, with bodies adapted for higher water pressure. This also represents close to the lower limit of air-breathing animals, including the giant sperm whale. This creature, this wrinkly, loud submarine with teeth, they have many adaptations for hunting in the deep ocean, including massive lungs, flexible ribs that can withstand massive pressure, and the ability to echolocate. Unfortunately, we have to leave this guy here as we travel deeper into... As we go deeper, we begin to see many examples of creatures exhibiting a trait known as Gigantism. While the gist is, the deeper you go, the larger certain species tend to be, there are different theories as to why this is. Some scientists think that it may have to do with the larger body helping conserve heat and thus energy, while others think it may have to do with slower metabolism, availability of mates, with a massive amount of water pressure above. Perhaps a prime example of this gigantism are the... It's right behind me, isn't it? These squids, the giant and colossal squid, in the genre Architeuthis and Mesonictiteuthis respectively, represent two of the largest invertebrates currently alive. In addition to their huge eyes, which are the largest in the animal kingdom on the colossal squid, they both also have quite unique suction cups, with serrated edges and curved hooks respectively. Now's probably also a good time to talk about marine snow. With a low density of, well, anything but water down here, it's a bit harder for organisms to rustle up some grub. A key component of deep-sea marine ecosystems often comes in the form of marine snow. This is every bit of decaying flesh, excrement, shed scales, and other yummy morsels coming from the higher zones. This in turn provides valuable nourishment for bottom-dwelling creatures, like the adorable vampire squid. Oh, excuse me. The extremely adorable vampire squid, also known as Vampiriteuthis infernalis. Don't worry, they're harmless. They just eat the marine snow and the dreams of orphans. On our way down, we come across what looks like a small volcano spewing black clouds into the water column. We can see the water swirl around them like air over the road on a hot day. And to our surprise, we find life. Whole colonies of mussels, crabs, and tube worms make their homes near these hydrothermal vents. And I mean, it's a pretty good neighborhood. Unlike closer to the surface, the main source of energy here in the abyss are these vents, and more specifically, the bacteria that surround them. Allow me to introduce chemosynthesis. Similar to photosynthesis, these bacteria can convert certain elements and chemicals found in the smoke into energy and organic compounds. Because of this, many organisms enter into a symbiotic relationship with the bacteria, such as the deep-sea mussels and the giant 6-foot-long tube worms, who have a whole organ to house the bacteria called a trophosome instead of a digestive system, while others, like our friend the Yeti crab, just eat them. On a side note, while they haven't been found near the Mariana Trench, Yeti crabs are quite interesting. Compared to their land and shallow water counterparts, they have long, hairy arms that help to trap the bacteria in the water, which they then eat using their comb-like mouthparts. This is a pretty interesting way of harvesting food. It's kind of like if you wore your fur parka and then rolled around on the ground to collect cookie crumbs and Cheeto dust off your floor. Effective, but at the same time... Down here, far beyond the reach of the sun, far beyond the notion of warmth, so far from any other human, and yet still on this planet. This is the fissure in Abyss, born 180 million years ago, known as the Mariana Trench. Here, having bones becomes somewhat less than ideal. Perhaps the only exception to this is the aptly named Mariana Hadal snailfish, which... let's just say that when you have to evolve beyond basically all other vertebrates in order to look like that and live essentially where death couldn't hear you scream, it may not be worth it. Just saying. But in all seriousness, they are really impressive. They have compounds in their bodies that allow certain proteins to function even under massive pressure, allowing them to, well, not get squished. And of course, they secrete a slimy mucus both internally and externally, because of course they do. And it's this mucus that gives them their name. Even farther down, towards the very bottom, are more alien creatures, such as the giant isopod. Very little is known about these giant relatives of roly-polies. What is known is that they're voracious carnivores, growing up to 16 inches long, and are well adapted for swimming. Also here are some sea cucumbers, as well as xenophyrophores, but they don't really do much. In fact, nothing much happens down here. Life goes on in complete darkness, and I suppose it's a nice place to get away to. It's relaxing in a way. Though next time I have some plans for somewhere a bit more lively and hot. A few places actually, you'll see what I mean. Anyway, you're good down here, right? I've got places to be and all. Okay, bye. Just kidding. Hop in.